I'm trying to make a video even though I'm sick. Talk about dedication. What's on my mind right now is how I've had golden handcuffs for a while, and it's like a good problem to have, I guess, right? I'm the guy that complains about making too much money and having a six-figure job. That is who I have become. But I wanted to talk about how golden handcuffs make it so difficult to pursue a side hustle full time. It's something that I've thought about for a while. It's kind of frustrating because when you start a side hustle, you want to make it successful. Oftentimes, you want it to become a full time thing. You want it to replace your current job. You want it to be the thing that sets you free and brings you financial independence. But what happens when you have golden handcuffs is that you get used to making a certain amount of money. And if you've ever researched like when you should go all in on your side hustle, a lot of people will tell you that you should do it when your side hustle replaces your main income. The problem with that is that when you make really good money at your day job, being able to replace your main income on a side hustle isn't really possible until you go all in on your side hustle, or unless you're really lucky and your side hustle really takes off. Most of the time, a side hustle is just something that you do on the side, hence the name. For you to be able to grow it to surpass a six-figure income is a lot of work, and it's very difficult to do on the side. And calling it a side hustle does it a big disservice, because anyone who's ever tried to start a side business or tried to make money doing a small project or anything like that, a YouTube channel, whatever, will know that it's usually a ton of work. It ends up taking up a lot of your free time, which is fine because you're free to use your time however you want. And many of us squander it away on video games and TV or other things that don't bring value, or maybe even good hobbies that bring you joy. Whatever, it's your time. You can do whatever you want with it. But some of us decide to try our luck in business and see if we can turn a skill or something that we have into some passive income and maybe one day live the dream. But it's so much more work than what it seems. And then when you have a job that pays you $120K a year and you're like, well, my side hustle, makes me $30,000 a year, or on a good year, it might make me 50, or on a bad year, it might make me 10. It makes it feel like it's impossible to make that side hustle work as a full-time thing. Even though in the back of your mind, you're probably like, man, if I had the time, I could really commit to this and I can really make it happen. But you don't have the time because you have to work your regular job, because you have bills and a family to support and health insurance to pay for and a car note and rent, all that stuff that keeps us stuck in those golden handcuffs. And then many of the options that you start to consider are like, well, how can I lower my cost of living in order to make this work? How much savings do I have in order to be able to live off of if I decide to try to do this side hustle full time and really make it happen? What's the bare minimum that I need to be able to pay for the things that I have? What do I need to survive? But when you've had the golden handcuffs for a while, chances are that your lifestyle has creeped a little bit, and you probably live in a nicer area, so you pay more in rent, and you probably drive a nicer car, so you pay more in that, and you probably shop at nicer stores and have nicer things. And unfortunately, lifestyle creep is exactly just that. It creeps up on you and you don't realize it. What I'm saying is that you start weighing your options and you start really thinking like, well, how can I make this happen? It comes down to being able to cut your cost of living down. But then if you're in a place where you have to pay high cost of living, or even if you go to a lower cost of living, right? If you're making 150 grand a year and your side hustle is making you 50 grand a year, to be able to live off of that 50K that your side hustle makes you, you're going to have to cut back on your lifestyle a lot. And when you have a family and responsibilities, it's not that easy. Like if you're a single guy in your 20s and you're making 150K a year and you have some savings, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to pursue my side hustle that makes me 50K a year and I'm going to be okay. You probably will be. You're a lot more flexible and you have a lot more freedom. As you get older and you have those responsibilities and you've been accustomed to a certain lifestyle and you support your family and you have expectations around what you bring in and you can't do that anymore, then your options are very limited. And oftentimes people will tell you, oh, just relocate somewhere cheaper. There's a lot of places that you can live in the US for fairly cheap. Well, the problem is that if you pursue your side hustle for a certain amount of time and you don't have proof of income for being able to afford a certain rent and being able to afford certain things, then it's a lot harder to rent a place. And it's a lot harder to just move to the middle of nowhere. Also, I've said this before, like if you've lived in the middle of nowhere before, you know exactly how terrible it is living in the middle of nowhere. Nobody tells you to go move to Wisconsin if you want to make it big. Everybody tells you to go to New York City or like go to a big city because there's not the same opportunities. And if you're starting a business, while you can do it remotely and many side hustles are remote and you could do it from anywhere, I don't want to live in the middle of Wisconsin. I don't want to move to Alabama. I don't want to move to places that are just cheap. Like I want to be able to have a good lifestyle that I enjoy and things to do. And if you move to the middle of nowhere, you won't have that option. That's just a reality of it. So I hate when people just say like, oh, there's plenty of places that you can afford if you want to live in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I don't. I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere. So your options become fairly limited. And then you end up not being able to commit full time to your side hustle. And then eventually, if you can't do that, it ends up kind of dying. Or you try to do it for a little bit and then you get scared, because that happened to me as well. If you can't reduce your cost of living and you can't pursue your side hustle full time, then you end up probably more than likely letting it go, or keeping it as something that is so passive and so small that you won't be able to grow it, because where you focus your time and energy is what's going to grow. And if all your time and energy is going to your job, and then some of your free time goes to your family, and then the little bit of time that you have left goes to your side hustle, then it ends up just not being enough time. And then if you try to do your side hustle and your full-time job and spend time with your family and still have some hobbies, then you end up really just burning out, because your work-life balance is shot at that point and it's really not maintainable. You can do that for a little while, and I did, but what ends up happening is that you just burn out because it becomes too much work. And even though your side hustle is something that you enjoy doing, what ends up happening is that you get a bad taste in your mouth for your day job, because you feel like it's getting in the way of your dreams. It's getting in the way of the thing that you're really trying to do and the thing that you really want to do. So you tend to have like resentment towards it, but then it's like a toxic relationship where you just can't let go of it because you need it, because you love it, because you want it to support you. Then you have your side thing that you're really in love with, and you just want to run away with it into the sunset, but you can't because you have your day job that requires you to be faithful because you need it. Then on top of that, like there's so many other things too, right? Like besides just the financial security, there's just so much other stuff like health insurance and the benefits and retirement and all that stuff that you get from a day job and a good job. Especially when you have a higher salary, you're contributing a lot more to retirement and you're able to potentially save more, although that doesn't feel like the case lately for me. But still, in theory, you should be able to when you have a high paying job. And giving that up is hard. It's scary. It sucks that our health insurance in the United States is directly tied to your employer, which just makes it so much more difficult to like go and start your own business, because then you have to worry about those things again, even more so if you're a little bit older, like I am, if you're midlife and you have a family. It's tough to give up the perks, and it's very hard and scary to give up health insurance. It really is. It's not easy to just say like, hey, I'm going to go and live without any health insurance, and if my kid breaks their arm, well, we'll just see what happens then. And that sucks too. And then job security, right? When you leave your job for your side hustle, you kind of take that hit on your resume, and then you have that gap in employment, and you have to explain that, which is just terrible and stupid, but that's just the way that employment is, and that's just the way the process is, and that's just something that you have to do when you're applying the job. So if you take a year or two off to pursue your side hustle, to pursue your business that you want to start, and you need to go back to the golden handcuffs because you didn't make it, or you just have that fear of, if I need to go back to a job, what am I going to do when I have to explain like what I've done for the last 2 years? Some employers might not care, but some of them might see it as like, oh, this person really isn't dedicated to their job. They really don't want to be working. They just have to be working, which the truth is that nobody wants to work. All of us have to work. And if most of us could start our own side business and have it be successful, most of us or all of us won't go to a day job, and we would pursue our passions and businesses that we want to create. But the reality is that a lot of the times we do need those jobs, and we do get stuck in those golden handcuffs. And if you have to take time off to pursue that side business and you decide to actually have to go back to a job, you're always worried about like, oh man, this isn't going to look good on my resume. Or if you do it a few times, like I kind of have been, then you start having these gaps multiple times through your resume, and then it makes you look like a job hopper. And that's like another fear to have, because God forbid that you have dreams and ambitions to not have to work a job. That's just how it is. And it sucks because it makes it harder and harder. It's almost like the system doesn't want you to go and be your own successful entrepreneur. It really wants you to be a cog in the wheel, and a permanent cog in the wheel. And it's really, really hard. And then you hear the hustle porn. I've said this before. I forget. It's somebody from Shark Tank that said it. Entrepreneurs are like the only people that will work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 for someone else. That's what it's like when you work a side hustle. When you have golden handcuffs and your job also has good work-life balance, which is rare, but it happens and I've had it. It's even harder because you know that you can have this nice cushy job that's nice and easy and pays the bills, and you know that you're going to make X amount of dollars and it's going to be great, and you don't have to work any more than your 40 hours, maybe a little bit more, sometimes maybe a little less. And that's really, really nice. But with a business and a side hustle, you're going to go end up working way more hours. Trust me, I've put a ton more hours into my YouTube and my side hustles than I have into my day job in the last few years. The times that I have done it full time, it does feel that way. It's not maintainable. Again, it goes back to like the whole work-life balance and like trying to juggle both of them. But when you're actually focusing on just doing one and then spending the same amount of time as you would have been doing your side hustle and working a day job, now you just take all that time that you had on your day job and you work your side hustle. But it's not just 40 hours a week, because you're also putting in that extra time that you used to. So now you're working like 60 hours a week. Sometimes it feels great to be working on your own thing. And I've gone into focus mode lately, and I've been able to dump some serious hours into YouTube because I've been posting more videos. And I've also been building a website on the side that I put a bunch of hours into. And while I enjoy it, I know it's not maintainable, but you know, the idea is that sometimes I'll be sprinting and really working really, really hard and putting in a ton of hours. But if things go well and income starts to come in, then I can like slow down. And some weeks I might work 20 hours, some weeks I might work 60 hours. But the idea is that eventually if I build my own thing and my business is successful, then I won't have to constantly work 80 hours a week. But if you have golden handcuffs and a day job that pays you very well for 40 hours a week, and you decide to give that up for a side hustle that you're going to end up working 80 hours a week for, it's hard to like wrap your head around that. And it's hard to do that consistently. So that's another thing that's pretty difficult about wanting to pursue a side hustle full time and making your like small business work and replace your golden handcuffs. Ends up taking a lot more time and a lot more work than what it would be to just work a day job. The fear of the unknown, that's a tough thing too, right? Because with your job, you know what you're going to get. And most of the time, if you've got good job security and you don't have to worry about getting laid off or fired, which is always a possibility, but for the most part, you know what to expect. You know what your day-to-day life is at work when you're doing that. When you have a side business, you don't know what could happen. And it's like that fear of the unknown, that uncertainty of like something might break and I have to go fix it. And that might not be specifically to like the fear of the unknown, but like the unknown happening and then you having to take care of it. You're always on call feeling like not knowing how things are going to work out, and not knowing if you can actually make it happen, and not knowing like what's around the corner that might change your path or change your journey or change where you're at on your business, because you just don't know. And that can be just very scary because we don't like uncertainty. We don't like that unknown. And we like routine, and we like what we know, and we like to be prepared and be able to be aware of anything that's coming up. With a side hustle and a business, you don't have that luxury. You don't have that. A lot of the times you have to just be ready for whatever. And that can be a little hard as well. The only fear of the unknown with golden handcuffs is that if you do happen to like get laid off or fired, like that's the one thing that could really derail you when you're in a position where you're dependent on a job. But there's so many things that could happen when you're trying to start a business that you just don't know might happen. Another thing is too, like social pressure and expectations from your peers or your family members. Like it's really hard for some of my family members and friends to understand that I don't want to like work a job anymore. And it's very hard for people to understand, like, why would you want to give up like such a good salary and such a good career to go like be a YouTuber, or to go like create your own websites, or maybe have the freelance or consult or coach and like do all these different things that are just so not the norm. It's just not what you're supposed to do. You start hearing that from a lot of people that you know, and then when you make videos like I do and you start seeing it in the comments, you really start to like doubt yourself, and you start to think like, man, maybe I am crazy for like not wanting to like do this job forever, and maybe I should just keep wearing these golden handcuffs, and maybe I should not try to go live my dream, or like start my own business, or achieve financial independence and freedom from the system. Maybe I am just nuts and I've been too red pilled and I feel like I'm stuck in the matrix. You start hearing it from so many people, and you feel that pressure, and you feel like you have to live up to the expectations that people want. It takes a lot of like back and forth in your own head, talking to your wife, and like really discussing like what it is you want, thinking it through, and then realizing like, no, I know what I want, and what everyone else is expecting of me, or what society expects of me, or what like my peers think that I should be doing, my friends and family. That's what they think. That's what they want, but it's not what we want. And when we really think about what we want, the golden handcuffs and the 9 to 5 isn't going to provide that for us long term. It might for a while, like it definitely can, and it's always an option. And if we do want to travel, then maybe I could just work a remote job. That's not what I want. I want to eventually build my own thing, to then have the freedom to dictate the hours that I work, and to not have to deal with all the stuff that comes with a day job. I can't give in to those social pressures. I can't give in to the expectations of other people, because at the end of the day, this is our lives, and this is what my family wants, and this is what we want to do. It doesn't live up to others' expectations. We shouldn't care about the social pressure, because we're living our own lives. We're not living our lives for other people. But it's still hard sometimes, because when you have the good job and you have the good salary, and you tell everyone that you're going to like leave that and go do your YouTube thing that brought you in $30,000 last year, it's kind of like, all right, you're crazy. And you start to question yourself. But if you know in your gut that's what you want to do, then you should pursue it. But it still makes it very hard to pursue that side business and that side hustle when you have all these people telling you that you're making a mistake, because you have these nice, pretty golden handcuffs that everybody claims they wish they had. But it's funny, because a lot of the people that say that are the ones that say they wish they had those golden handcuffs, but then they don't really know what it feels like when you're wearing them. So I feel like I've talked about a lot of this stuff, and I have my notes that I'm looking at and just thinking like, I kind of talked about the lifestyle change, and everyone says like, oh, well, you could work the job and then just go live somewhere that's cheaper. I kind of said the same thing about like, oh, you can go live somewhere cheaper and make the side hustle work. I talked about how I wouldn't want to live somewhere that's in the middle of nowhere. And a big reason why we want to travel is because we can go like explore exotic lands and still spend less than what it would cost to live in Wisconsin. We're looking at a condo right now in Vietnam that's on the beach, 80 feet from the beach. Like literally, it's oceanfront property. Really nice 800 square foot condo that's going to cost us $650 for the whole month of April, for an entire month. Like, you can't get that anywhere in America. And if you can, it ain't oceanfront property. In order to make it work, we have to figure out how to make it work by not spending as much. And even though things are going to be super cheap, it still feels very scary and uncertain, because it's such a big lifestyle change. And I think that when you're just so accustomed to living a certain way and having that stability from a job and a salary and those golden handcuffs, that it's really hard to do things like this, even though on paper, financially, it seems like a great idea. It's still a big lifestyle change, but you need to make these lifestyle changes if you're going to take a huge pay cut and get rid of the golden handcuffs and then have unstable income from your side hustle for a while. We've accepted that, but it is something that prevents a lot of people from doing this, because it's not easy to do that. And finding a cheap place to live in the US is almost impossible, especially like at that dollar amount that I just mentioned for like the place we're going to have in Vietnam in April. It says a little bit about why we're trying to like get out of the US to do this, and also like why it's really hard for most of us to do this, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's a major lifestyle change. Kind of said like the uncertainty of the income. At the end of the day, when you're starting your own business, there's a lot of potential upfront investment that you have to put in. There's a lot of not knowing what you might have to spend, or what things are going to cost you, or if you have an emergency, or if you have a bad month and you don't make enough money because your business isn't bringing a set amount of money every month. And one month you can have a great month and the next month might not be so good. For example, with me, sometimes YouTube does great and I have a few sponsors any given month and I can bring in enough money to be able to afford and provide the things that we need for that month. But then the next month, my numbers might go down, views might go down. Who knows? YouTube might do something and cut ads in half. And then what do? I'm also starting other things, and leaving my job is going to afford me much more time for me to be able to hack away and try to become an indie hacker and build different products. I've already got that website pretty much at launch. I know that long term, I'll be okay, but that potential for financial insecurity, especially at the beginning, and potentially having to like spend savings or just not knowing how much I'm going to be making every month, like that is a big, scary elephant in the room. And I'm well aware of it. My wife is well aware of it. We're in a good spot financially. I've always said that, but we're not rich. We're not loaded. Like we can easily burn through our money in a couple years. And if we do that, then we're broke and I have to go back to the golden handcuffs and like start from scratch, which is not something I want to do. But the idea is that if I'm able to dedicate my time into producing more videos, into building more websites or SaaS products, then eventually like all of those things will one day replace the salary of my golden handcuffs, and hopefully one day surpass the salary that I make. And if I have no ceiling, then my possibilities are endless. But from now until then, there's so much of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and all of the things that I've mentioned in this video that make me scared and worried about trying to pursue this dream of turning my side hustle into my full-time thing and getting rid of the golden handcuffs and getting rid of the day job and achieving financial independence and all that good stuff. But from now until then, it's going to be a lot of work and it's going to be really hard. But I'm ready to embrace it. I just wanted to talk about in this video, like why it's so hard for some of us who make really good money at their day job to give that up and pursue something that may or may not make it at the end and definitely doesn't replace your main income right away. With that said, I'm going to go like lay down and take a nap. I feel super sick, as you could hear it in this video. The show must go on. I got to put out content. The office is getting more and more cleaned up. There's more and more stuff that's packed. As you can see behind me, the walls are kind of bare, and I'm getting really close to getting this move done. We've got about a week and a half left until we have to get out of here. So it's coming down to the wire, and I have to get some content out because I don't have any videos pre-recorded. So I wanted to get this video out to have another video for this week, and then I'll update everyone in a following video once I get over this cold. With all that said, I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.